Hey guys, Paul Martini here, pastor of New Life City Church in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we're starting a podcast, and I want to talk about some things that maybe are a bit more taboo to talk about from the pulpit, and just start explaining things from a pastor's perspective and a Christian perspective. And one of those things that we're going to talk about today is tattoos, and can Christians have a tattoo? Can Christians get a tattoo? And what does really the Bible say about that? What does history say about that? And what are some of our biases that we're carrying that we don't realize? So I hope you enjoy this episode. I hope it's informative to you and helps you with your opinions on these things. Bless you guys, and take a look.
Can I have tattoos as a Christian?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think if first of all, if you've had tattoos and then you get saved, you give your life to Jesus Christ, you know, your past is not held against you. And so even if the tattoos are something that might not be considered Christian, God uses it, redeems it all, and he doesn't hold our past against us. So
thank goodness.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this skull on my throat's okay?
Yes. You can just talk about how you came from death to life, you know, and the old man is dead. You know, it's almost even like reinterpreting the tattoos or understanding the concept of redemption, right? And so, you know, we all have history, and Christ doesn't hold it against us, but it is still part of our history. And so what's so great about being a Christian is we don't erase our history. Yeah. We testify of what God's done through our history. Yeah. So actually becomes a greater testament of where you've come from.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, I mean, that's great. But as a Christian, can I still continue to get tattoos?
Oh man, you're going heavy on this one, aren't you?
Right yeah, okay. I got to know.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm a pastor. I have no tattoos. So you're getting this from a blank canvas. Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, tattoos in the Bible, in Leviticus, things of that nature, have spoken about not marking the body. But when you read it in context, it's really about doing a pagan idea, rituals, things of that nature, that's not unto worship with God. And so that was the reason why they forbade it in the Old Testament. But the reality is that tattoos are not necessarily sinful, but can they be sinful? Yeah, and I think that's something that we need to talk about. And, you know, a lot of it comes down to the heart. Why are we getting it? What's the meaning for it? And what's your heart behind it? And so a tattoo for someone might not be sinful, but for someone else it might be, because the reason behind it is actually not glorifying God, and it's not the right mindset behind it. So it really is something you need to talk to the Lord about, I think, when looking at getting a tattoo or getting a tattoo on your body.
Thank you so much for it. I mean, as a new Christian, that's traditionally what we're taught, right? If you're heavily tattooed, or if you have tattoos, is a bad thing. And you mentioned Leviticus, but you know, my perusing through it, and again, this is why I'm asking a pastor. You know, there's a lot of other things we're not supposed to do in Leviticus that we do on a daily basis as well. I mean, like wearing fabric with multiple different types of materials and such. So it, like you said, it really just
eating
depends
pork.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a ton, and even if you go in the New Testament, and Timothy talks about women not ordaining, not wearing. A lot of jewelry, having elaborate hairstyles or expensive clothes. Oh my goodness, you go to a church today, you got a lot of people wearing expensive clothes and jewelry, and really it was in the context of that culture. It actually reckoned back to a lot of Greek gods and emulating a lot of the goddess Athena and things of that nature. And so, but yet we understand now that the principle was modesty, humility, and the heart behind it. And so obviously we have people with gold watches still in church, and women who wear earrings and things of that nature. So we do love to pick what we want to do in the Bible. And a lot of this comes down to associations. right? So historical associations with things, and tattoos, we'll talk about this, but were historically, for a season, was associated with, prisoners and, sailors who didn't have a great lifestyle and things of that nature. So that's why they had this connotation of being associated with badness or gangs or things of that nature. So, but everything has the possibility of being redemptive. Yeah. And I know you know this, but a lot of our viewers probably don't know this. 7th century, we have evidence of Coptic Christians having tattoos all the way back to 7th century. And that's just what we have evidence for, which implies that they've probably went back even more centuries. So they have evidence of them having crosses on their arms through depictions in literature as well as drawings. And so we know that this actually has a ton of Christian history all the way through the medieval period. Yeah. And so we do see that actually Christians might have been, really adopted the tattooing, but they redeemed it. They did it for the cross or for Christian pictures and things of that nature. So a lot of people don't realize that or know it, and so they just think tattoos, prisoners, gangs, evil. It should not be Christian. And what they're not doing is actually getting a lot of education about the history of tattooing and really where it stems from.
Well, I think that's why you brought me in here, really, honestly. Cause
absolutely.
Now you're dipping into my realm because, yes, thank you so much for clarifying that, because you're discussing and pointing to some of the evidence of early tattooing through Razuk Tattoo. That's a tattoo studio that's still in the practice today. They're on their 28th generation of tattoo artists, and they've been tattooing originally Coptic Christians in Egypt. Like you said, the earliest known as 7th century, but then they moved to Jerusalem about 500 years ago and do a lot of tattoos on people during their pilgrimages, which is something that's being practiced today. I even showed you a video of them blessing their tattooing before they actually practice on day-to-day. But it's cool because tattoos have so much meaning, and this is a way for them to collect something and then come back to America, go back to anywhere in the world and be able to show that they've gone through that. And that's, the power of tattooing. It's something that you have done. It's something that's in you, and then you put it on your body and you carry it for the world, not just for everyone else to see, but also for you too, because we've been doing it forever, even before written history, honestly. Our earliest known discovery of tattooing is around 5400 BC. It was on a peat bog mummy. His name, we've called him Otzi, and he has over 69 tattoos on his body. Now, these tattoos were not random. They were in places of acupuncture. A lot of them were over areas where, through x-rays, they discovered degradation under there. So what researchers believe is that Otzi would be able to travel anywhere and visit a medicine man or woman, and then be able to perform acupuncture in those areas of injury, right? Leading researchers to believe that tattooing was probably used earlier than that, right? And some of the symbols also had constellations, could have been used for navigation and such. So they were practical too, right? And every culture that we've discovered, pagan and Christian, there's some form of body art, whether it's a tattoo, whether it's actually poking soot or ink into the skin, or body piercings, permanent or scarification, are just different ways that people have been demonstrating their soul on their skin. And it is continuing to today, and now it's so popular, and tattooing has become something that, as a 25-year tattoo artist, I've tattooed folks that work at Burger King, and I've even had tattoos that have been in the White House, right? It's all demographics are collecting them, and you're seeing them more and more finding the truth, right? And it's so refreshing to know that my history does not, having tattoos doesn't hinder me from coming to church and being accepted,
Yeah, I mean, there was a day when if you had a tattoo, you should probably be hesitant to come into church, right? Because of the association with it. But now churches have come to realize that, first of all, it's a part of someone's history.
Yeah.
And second of all, that it's not as damning as what people used to think, because it is a form of art. Some people think it is degrading the body, but what the person getting it is actually elevating the body in an artistic way. And so what I love about, the idea of tattoos, again, I don't have any, but is like, if you're wearing something, like I have this bracelet that says, praying is better than preaching. I'm a preacher, pastor, so I want to remind myself, pray, just keep praying, right? Preaching is awesome. Both are great, but I love to pray. But if I love this so much that I'm like, man, I want to remind myself every day about this, then I would put it on my body, permanently.
Yeah.
And that's a way to increase my spiritual formation, remind myself of the value of prayer, and it won't wash off. It won't, I won't lose it, right? So that's why I think tattoos are so much. There is a redemptive and amazing ability to use it. And so you could have art for bad, you can have art for good. Tattoos is the same thing. A tool can be used for evil or for good, and so when we think about tattooing, we should stop thinking about, you're degrading the body, and start thinking about actually what you're really doing is in this person's mind. Now, other people can have other opinions. There's some art that other people love, and I'm like, that's ugly, right? I don't like that because they have a different artistic eye. Art is subjective, but at least in that person's mind, they're elevating their body in a sense artistically. And so if that's what they want to do, that's fine. And of course, I think that, because of society and the certain areas of careers and things of that nature, we should still use wisdom, be mindful. Hey, getting a tattoo on my face might hinder me from getting certain careers that God wants me to get. So I need to be wise in location, in what it actually is, and things of that nature. And so those are things that I don't think will ever change. The areas of the body might change that they're accepted in, but it's always something that we, as believers, we need to be wise. And so that's a Christian principle, wisdom. And so when it comes to tattooing, you might be thinking, well, okay, tattoos, Pastor Paul's saying tattoos are okay, and so they just go crazy. And it's like, well, depending on your career, and you still need to use wisdom in the moment and asking God, hey, is this where's my heart when it comes to getting this tattoo, and is this bringing glory to you, God, and is this location wise for my future endeavors?
Yeah, I like how you said that, because getting your face tattooed in society, well, in America right now, it's got its own connotations. In New Zealand, that's good. Having a moco is actually a sign of prestige,
right?
That kind of elevates you.
Yeah.
But again, you're right. It's using wisdom to know what's going to make sense for today, and even today. As a 25-year tattoo artist, I still am very I'm keen on why people are getting tattoos when they come and seek them, and where they're putting it can truly tell me a lot about them, right? If they want to get, like, what's the heart behind it? If somebody comes in their first tattoo and they want a tattoo with the eyebrow, side of their neck, top of their hand, that's telling me that they're probably not getting it for them. They're probably getting it because they want people to look at them, right? They want people to see them, whether it's something they need or if it's just like it's more for signaling, right? But what you're saying is it's okay for a Christian to collect tattoos if their heart posture is aligned with glorifying God in it.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's a symbol for themselves, right? To always look at and to continually remind ourselves to pray, like you're saying, or just to constantly glorify God. Or for something to conversate, or to show somebody to start a conversation. One of the associate pastors here, Josh Lamb, he told me that he hadn't collected any tattoos until he become a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's a great tool to be able to engage people with, because all the time people want to talk to, like, ooh, what do you got there? And they want to engage that conversation. So it does become a tool for evangelism as well. So it can be for that too, and like tattoos could be a serious tool to connect with people that, maybe have never walked into a church or are too scared to go to a church,
Yeah, great conversation starters for evangelism.
Mm-hmm.
If you have that heart to do that, I think, like you were saying about Josh, that's a great way to say, oh yeah, this is what I was going through when I got this,
Mm-hmm.
and this is what it means to me,
Mm-hmm.
and then just springboard that into a relationship, into having a relationship about Christ, and now there's something to identify there, and so I think, yeah, that's totally a great way to, that's a great reason to have a tattoo for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course let's get in some of your background. So You've been a tattoo artist for 25 years.
Yeah.
Own your own shop.
Mm-hmm.
You've been in things in politics to even help pass policy to make
You're giving my bio for me. Thank
tattoo
you.
artists more, and you can clarify all this,
Yeah.
but to make tattooing more safe and more transparent and
Yes.
more professional.
100%.
And I think that's so great, because you have on the scale here, it's like you have a friend who buys a tattoo machine for the first time and starts tattooing with no experience, no safety protocols, things of that nature. And then you have someone like yourself who's absolutely professional, certified, and all that stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, thank you for the overview. Yes, I've been tattooing 25 years, and 15 of those years I've owned a studio, which doing a craft and owning a business are two totally different things. So it like develops a whole new skill set, which broke me into understanding what's required of us legally, right? Yes, you can buy tattooing equipment on Amazon. Don't do it. Yes, you could just start doing it without training. Don't do it, kind of thing. And once you realize what it all entails, you see how complex it can be. And there was some unneeded complexity here in New Mexico when it came to tattooing because of the unknowns. We're having this conversation because people who don't know a lot about tattoos, and those of us in the tattoo room, don't typically step out and talk about it a lot. And that's actually in our history. We'll get into that in a second. It's called gatekeeping, where you keep all the information to yourself and only the few get to know it. But they started creating regulations in New Mexico for body art that just were not aligned with us. They were trying to regulate us like barbers and cosmetologists. And so seeing a need, we were able to come together and lobby to create our own regulatory board. I've been involved with that. I sat on that board since its fruition. From 2013 to 2019, served here in New Mexico, fighting for tattoo health and safety. Because I think that's something huge, images aside, meaning aside, it's a flesh wound. We're stabbing people, right? It's a needle going into the dermal layer, and it only takes, picking your nose, fiddling with your phone with a glove, and then touching your fresh flesh wound, and you've got an infection, right? And then the whole process gets derailed. So there's ways but there's so many safe ways you can go about it. So yes, I championed the bill. Went through the legislative session, got to share tattoo health and safety to politicians, which has led to a lot more education today, right? Like you said, I am a huge champion for healthy and safe tattooing, but also good education, bringing people into it properly. If you want to do it, how to do it safely, how to do it so tattooing can perpetuate as a professional career. That's that can be a legitimate craft that people can accept and do safely, and then we can see it evolve into something that becomes a rite of passage even for someone in their Christian walk, right? And so today after the board, I now serve in a public relations position for a couple different organizations now that are all about transparency, like you were just saying. Like we're trying to debunk myths that tattoos are super dangerous, that they're actually less dangerous than the McDonald's people eat every day. And that we want to, also be mindful of the end consumer, the tattoo artist, making sure that the products and the tools that we get are good quality, because manufacturing and creating tools and inks has become mainstream, right? It's big business. Big third-party companies like Amazon have gone into distributing and selling our stuff I mentioned. So then you have non-compliant manufacturing. You could make tattoo ink and then sell it on Amazon, and people stick it in people's bodies, and it's not.
Wow.
We've even had a report of somebody one time bought some ink off of Amazon, and it had house paint in it. Like it wasn't tattoo ink, So we're working really hard to make sure that that's legitimately sourced, legitimately clarified, and there's integrity and transparency in what we're using. So yes, very, very, very involved with the tattoo industry, and because I'm putting in so much of that effort, I want to make sure that it's something that will last for a long time, right? That it can be this beautiful thing, like we're saying. That it can be used from the secular world to your spiritual beliefs. Mm-hmm. It can be a means to praise God too. Mm-hmm. And it's such a useful tool that I don't think so many believers are recognizing the value. We mentioned Josh being able to use his tattoos to engage with people because they have questions, but it's also a great way for believers to engage with people with tattoos, right? Because they tell you so much about them.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost like it's almost a form of evangelism.
Yeah, 100%. Because you can ask about the story behind their tattoo, and then you can kind of like, speak life over them about that story, and bring the whole conversation to Jesus.
Yeah.
And I feel like we know now your background in this business, but what about your background in Christ? You have a pretty cool testimony. How long have you known the Lord? I know you've grew up in a Christian household, with its bumps in the road, I'm sure.
Yeah, sure.
But more recently, tell us a little bit about that so people understand your history.
I appreciate that segue, because my mother and my mother and father are both Christians, practicing Christians today. Mother was a strong Christian growing up, military brat, so moved around a lot, saw a lot of the hypocrisies of the human sin, human nature, right? And so it wasn't until not gonna go, but it was until I met New Life City and came to Christ now that I understand what truly church is and what Christians are. But I didn't get a good example back in the day, right? So I tried around 16 to get back into a youth group, and it was a interesting scenario where there was this pastor who had a problem with the female leadership, and it just continued to expose that cherry picking, I think, when it comes to scripture, and it really compounded this desire to fit in with a group, but instead of finding it in the church, I found it in street gangs, right? That led to getting tattooed early in life because, I love tattoos. I think they're beautiful, but sometimes they can be used for the wrong reasons, right? And that's how I kind of started. But I fell in love with tattooing very early on because I love to draw. As soon as I saw tattoos, I started drawing with my friends. I eventually made a homemade machine, as we were talking about. Yes,
which you shouldn't do.
No, don't do that. Well, now you buy a tattoo machine on Amazon. Back then you couldn't. So I made a homemade tattoo machine and messed my friend up pretty good, and got tattoos. And I will say this, my mom is cool. Still being a Christian woman, she still saw a problem and had a good solution. And she was actually, whether she knew it or not, was working through a divine mindset. Is she saw these horribly done home tattoos, and she gave me this deal that if I waited till I was 16, she would sign for me to get a professional tattoo, right? And at the time where we were at, your parent could sign for you and get tattooed as early as 16. And I took that deal. I kept my grades up, and I actually got a crown of thorns. But it was a different day and era. The guy had my arm just like laying over his stomach, and he had just drew it on a ballpoint pen. He was smoking a cigarette the whole time, and it was old school. And I didn't know it then consciously. I was going like, "This is awesome. Don't do it like this. This is dangerous." But that really kind of solidified tattooing in my life. But then I took these symbols and I would go through these different parts of my life and collect them because, I ended up in the military because if you didn't have a solid career or a job out of school, you went in the military. Still collected tattoos when I traveled. I didn't last well in there. I like to drink and fight a lot. I was definitely struggling a lot through where I wanted to be a tattoo artist, but I was stuck in the military. So I got discharged after under 2 years, which led to more drinking, led to heavy drinking, led to some heavy drug use, and kind of was spiraling for a time, but did find light. There was one person that did want to take a chance on me. His name was Steve Rondash. He was a tattoo artist in California. He himself, talk about redemption. He had learned to tattoo in prison, got out, modified to become learned some tattoo professional skills. And he met me and he saw this, person who was struggling with drug and alcohol and this desire to tattoo. So he took me under his wing and helped me get sober, right? It was that craft that took me away from the hard drugs, right? But still having that wound was seeing Christianity do what it did in the history in my past and around the world. And I know a lot of people can understand what I'm saying. I was still seeking, but it didn't come to Christ. It went down the Eastern path, actually. I found myself at one point actually almost becoming a Buddhist monk.
Interesting.
Actually in 2004, I found myself in a town called Bergerac in a place called Plum Village, which was a Vietnamese Buddhist monastery. And I was really close to just shaving my head, donning the robes, and giving up the world. But there was something that kept me, Christ, obviously, that now I know was keeping me from staying there. But there was something that was important, and this goes into today, is what use would I have been to people if I was sitting in a monastery tucked away in the south of France, right? When you sit down and you tattoo somebody, you're breaking down barriers that I don't think anyone really understands until you get tattoos, which you'll know one day.
Maybe. Yeah.
We'll work on that. But yeah, when you're getting tattooed, you have that visceral fight or flight response. You want to, your natural response is to get up and get away, or fight, right? And fighting your tattoo artist won't lead to a good tattoo. So you have to sit there and take that. You have to rail against your natural response, and then you have to trust somebody to permanently change your appearance. And as we were talking about earlier, even the way we dress is so important. Imagine modifying your body permanently. Like that's a lot of trust, and that's a lot of honor we get to do that, right? It's truly something that's beautiful. And during that interaction, there's like a transference of relationship that's like nothing else. I mean, maybe similar to a therapist, maybe similar to like a barber and a or a bartender, maybe.
Yeah, what I find about that, what you said, is that, people are, obviously they're practically having to sit there and surrender under that moment, but there's definitely a psychology thing going on there where they're literally surrendering to the pain to allow you to make something beautiful. And there's this spiritual aspect too, where it's like it's kind of like how you have to surrender your pain to Christ for him to make something beautiful out of it.
Yeah.
So this really gives you an opportunity, now that you're a born again lover of Jesus, following Jesus Christ, and you're an evangelist yourself, you now have the opportunity to minister to people who are stuck in a chair and already I'm trusting you with my pain, that you're going to make something beautiful during it. And even if you say something they don't like, they're hours in your chair with you, and maybe multiple days, because it might be multiple sessions.
Yeah. No, sometimes I'll spend years with clients. Some tattoos, even one of our members here, I've spent years tattooing, getting to really know them. And you're right, you're stuck with a chair with me, And now there's a lot that goes into the.
And he used to talk to Christ about Christ to you as well.
Yeah.
Shout out to Cullen.
Cullen. Yeah, we used to spar a lot, verbally and physically. He's choked me out quite a few times.
He does jujitsu.
He's a beast. Yeah.
He is a beast.
In jujitsu. But no, even Tommy. I knew Tommy pre.
Oh wow.
I was tattooing him quite a bit. And so yes, no, 100%. When you're in the chair with me, I mean, I have this opportunity to say words that will penetrate deeper, and honestly, I've met folks that they don't have a counselor, they don't have a pastor, they don't have a good home or life relationship. This one time I went to go tattoo what would be here in New Mexico a typical looking cholo, right, like a gangster, baggy clothes, and he wanted to do these praying hands on his forearm. And I remember when we were ready to stick the stencil, and I reached out to grab his arm, and he pulled back, like don't touch me kind of thing, and it's no, it's okay, bro, I'm just gonna work on this tattoo. Now if you were to fast forward an hour later, you got this big, scary looking child crying in my chair, telling me about this, how it was for his mom, and how she had passed, and it was so meaningful to her, so no, it is truly a very vulnerable, surrendered state. And you're right, this has become what I call it the tattoo healing ministry. And it is where I do have an opportunity to truly speak about Christ to clients, but not always with those exact words. And bringing the Holy Spirit into the sessions is the key part, right? Because there's words that I can say to one client where it's very direct and very overt, I gotta, let's talk about Christ. Then I have some clients that they show up for their consultation and they have demonic apparel on. I won't put something demonic on their flesh. An example, which I won't release this person's name, but they wanted to do a portrait of a lost pet, right? But their clothing was very demonic. So that was obviously, they weren't followers of Christ. And I wasn't going to try to evangelize them directly, but through showing them love, and then through sharing that I go to church, and that my community it's this great community. You'd see this softening, oh, maybe not all Christ believers are mean and judgmental. You know what I'm saying? So it is a real good opportunity to truly connect with people in a way that no other way can. And going back to the story, it's when I was in this Buddhist monastery in my early 20s, it was well, I feel like I still need to get out and be in the world in tattooing. It was such a blessing, as an artist, most artists create art and then they hope people like it, right? I'm going to create this painting and I'm going to put it on the wall and hopefully someone buys it, or graphic designer, whatever it is. That's where that term starving artist came from. But tattooing is different because I'm not just drawing whatever I want and putting on people. I'm drawing what their soul is telling me, what their heart is telling me, right? What they want on their body. And it in itself is such, I believe, in our culture, a very unique, important place. Without going too far off, but, tattooing is ancient. It was typically done by tribal leaders, medicine men and women, right? It was a very prestigious thing to have tattoos. It wasn't until the last 100 years or 120 years or so that tattooing really became taboo. I mean, before that, it was the Royal Navy that was collecting tattoos in Britain and England, right? There was super wealthy aristocrat tattoo parties, right?
Yeah, I was reading about that. Kings would collect tattoos. Yeah. If you had a tattoo, you were actually the upper echelon of society.
It was a rare commodity. It was, because of the prestige of tattooing, very few knew how to do it well and right? So it was a commodity. It was during the 18 to 1900s. It was 1896. A man named Samuel O'Reilly took one of Thomas Edison's inventions, the electric stencil pen they used to scribe images on leather, and he modified the patent just enough to create the first electric tattoo machine. And he was well known on the circus sideshow circuit, right? He was known to tattoo like the most tattooed women, right? Or, most tattooed human being, and they were typically women. His apprentice, Charlie Wagner, also modified Thomas Edison's electric door knocker, like the right? That's the basic components and mechanical action of a traditional coal tattoo machine. And then it became easier to do. It became more easy, widespread, right?
Yeah.
And this is my personal belief. And this, I don't have stats or facts. I've just seen this from my working with veterans. Like Tommy's a good example. A lot of veterans come back from war hurting, struggling with post-traumatic stress syndrome. And back in the early part of the century, there was no VA. It was like, welcome back, soldier, get back to life, right? And for most people don't know, most of our organized bike gangs were founded by veterans, right? Because it was a way for brothers to come together and still use all their training, right? And feel that connection. So then you have all these wounded warriors coming back from war that we sent them on, collected tattoos, right? Because that was kind of what warriors did as they were traveling. And then they became integral into part of organized crime around the bike gangs, found it in prisons. The knowledge of making tattoo machines and tattoos became more widespread. So then it just became connected to that realm. When, like I said, 100 years before, you got it was something prestigious, and then now it's turning into this, it's a criminal bad thing. And I feel like there was this societal, I guess we felt maybe sad for not having a way to take care of our veterans, so we just kind of shun them. And I just feel like that has a lot to do with that persona that we have of tattoos. But we know how transformative they are, and again, I've seen it in clients that struggle through traumas. Just like you said, Christ can take our pain and redeem it. When somebody has something that's gone on, let's just say they've lost somebody. Example, a person lost their pet. I have pets. I love my pets. I love my pets. I'm sad. But for some people, that's their child.
Yeah, their
right?
companion. They've bonded really strong.
And I've seen it it's truly a wound in them. It's an emotional wound. But if you could take that emotional wound and kind of collect it and put it into a physical wound, right? You're feeling emotional pain. You're feeling physical pain. You're able to kind of transmute it from there into this image. You're able to process it. And that's why it's so important during the process of a tattoo is we help people through that process. We talk them through it. Sometimes, like I mentioned earlier about the cholo and the prayer hands, there's crying, there's weeping, there's this getting out, this process of it. And then as they are finished and they watch their tattoo heal, they themselves start to heal inside. And then once it's healed on them, then they're healed inside. And they can always look at it and remember it's a part of their journey. It's been, but they can use it as a chapter in their life that they can close.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah. I like that. I just want to say that obviously tattoos are not for everybody.
No.
We're not saying everyone should have a tattoo. Everyone should get a tattoo. Again, I don't have tattoos. Most of my family don't have tattoos. My sister is the only one who has a tattoo in my family out of all my siblings, and my daughter, my adult daughter, has tattoos. And I don't. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. But I have opinions as a parent. I'm like, why did you get that? Because obviously, I think getting a tattoo at a young age, again, you need to think about can I get a picture of this and hang it on the wall if I love it that much? Or does it really need to be on my body? And is this something that is going to last well? Is it done by a professional? And my daughter has a tattoo that you know about that it didn't actually go well. It was a bad tattoo, and she's going through the process of getting it removed. Not because she doesn't like tattoos, it just was a bad artist, or he had a bad day, or I don't know. I don't even know how it all works. But so I'm not telling everyone to get a tattoo. Of course, I don't have one, but I do want to challenge everyone in our biases, because I said earlier, it really depends on your heart, why you're getting it, things of that nature. But sometimes we wear clothes because we like how the clothes look on us. Yeah, we like how they feel. We feel like they're cool or trendy, and so we allow certain things in our own lives, and yet we judge others about certain decisions of trends and coolness and things of that nature. And so, we don't know what's going on in people's hearts, but God does. Yeah. And so it's easy for us to start judging right away. But I just want to challenge you, suspend your judgment, because, you don't know their heart. God knows their heart. And so they're accountable to God. They're not accountable to you. Yeah. And so if they say, this is what I felt like God told me to get, or this is something that has a lot of meaning to me, I would just be unbiased about it and be like, oh, well, that's great for you. I'm glad you're doing that. Obviously, if it's something demonic, absolutely pagan, I'll let them know, like, hey, what you're getting there, that's like Eastern mysticism. And, I don't think it's what you think it is. Or if you do, you shouldn't be a follower of Christ and getting something like that. So I think that's okay. But, there's things that we do that we still like. Ear piercings, right? Sure. That is a marking of the body. It's a scarring of the body. Yet we don't look at ear piercings as the way we look at tattoos, because we've become so culturally adapted to ear piercings. So, the majority of women have ear piercings in church, and now a lot of men do, right? 40, 50 years ago, men having ear piercings was a bad thing. Oh, yeah. But now it's like, oh, your ear's pierced, oh, whatever, right? It's actually our own societal biases coming to fruition, and us having a syncretism with what we considered a negative association with a Christian association. We go, oh, that has to be bad. But this happens in society for all things. Things that were once considered good are now considered bad, and was once considered bad had an association. Once considered bad could have an association to be considered good. I'll give you one more recent example, and some of society is still like it's bad, but Bitcoin was associated with criminals, with the dark web, with doing illegal things, and there was justification for it because it was being used for a lot of illegal transactions. However, society has changed because there's some value in Bitcoin with the crypto technology, with the blockchain. Yeah, with the blockchain. Thank you. So now the financial services are like, actually, there's some value here. Yeah. And now Bitcoin is around $100,000 for one Bitcoin. Yeah. Because society has seen its value. So if you 30 years ago, or not 30 years ago, 15 years ago, said you use Bitcoin and trade Bitcoin. Yeah. People are like, what illegal activity are you a part of?
Are you a drug dealer?
Yeah. But now it's like, oh, you must be in a financial ETF, because every major financial company has stock ETFs that you can buy Bitcoin through, or Coinbase or Robinhood or all these other financial services. And it's really a societal view. And we go, well, that's evil, so it must be non-Christian. It's like, well, it was used for evil. And when it's used for evil, it's not Christian. However, if it has the ability to be used for good, and if it has redemptive properties, then it can be a part of a Christian life. And so that's what we're talking about here. And so I would challenge us to lower our biases about how we view people who see who have tattoos, and even how we view Christians who are getting tattoos. Now, I am one of those people who I have a friend and they're getting a tattoo, and I'm like, why are you doing that, dude? Are you just because it's now the trendy thing to do, or and if they're a friend, I'll just challenge them on it.
Sure.
But really, if they're like, no, I felt like this, represents God in my life. It's a part of my testimony. I'm going to use it to evangelize. It's a part of my family history. It just has a lot of meaning to me. Then I'm like, go for it, man. If that's what you feel, if it's not going to affect your family, it's not going to affect your career, it's not going to affect all the other God things that could happen in your life,
sure,
then go for it. But if getting Jesus across your forehead is going to stop you from being able to provide for your family,
sure,
well then
that too,
God's probably not for it. That's probably not, even if it says Jesus. It's now become a hindrance instead of a blessing.
Sure.
And so that's, as a pastor, I want things to be a blessing in your life, not a hindrance. So these are things that we have to talk about. And I think for you, as a tattoo artist, as a Christian tattoo artist, you have some ethical standards. I want you to tell me, like, hey, if I'm a business owner and let's say I'm a carpenter and they tell me to build something, I'll build whatever they want. But if I'm a ethical business owner and a Christian business owner, I'm not going to build something that's going to be structurally bad for their house. I'm not going to build something that's going to be potentially dangerous for others or for themselves.
Sure.
So what about you? What ethical standards? Because I know people who don't have tattoos or aren't familiar with this industry. What are some things that you just are, you've mentioned to me, but I'd love our audience to know that you're like, hey, I won't do this, I won't do that.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, as you mentioned, a professional in any realm, we just have to think about, ethics aside, I'm not going to put something that's going to hurt me make me liable for something, right? Like, say, tattooing somebody with a reused needle, right? Or reusing ink, or tattooing a minor without permission, or just putting some sort of hate speech on their body because I'll be attached to that. And that is just smart business mind, right? Now, yes, because of the 25 years, of tattooing, I've done the tattoos, the visible tattoos on a young person, and then got to know or learned later on how it hurt them, how it hurt their business or their ability to work, right? Or maybe it put them in a realm that they didn't want to be in, right? It's not because I'm speaking from theory, I'm speaking from experience. And two, I started collecting tattoos in very visible places young, and during that societal shift and the judgments that were there, I saw how it affected things. People, I remember watching, a woman clutch her purse and cross the street to get away from me when I'm really a really nice person.
Yeah.
But it's through experience that I recognize that today, yes, you can't, even with the acceptance of tattooing, you can't have it, Jesus on your forehead, or if you're getting your face tattooed, you're going to be labeled either, you're either like a rock star, a tattoo artist, or you're still possibly in some sort of illegal activity. No judgment for anyone who has face tattoos, and they're not in any of those camps. But so yes, I won't tattoo highly visible tattoos on first timers. I won't tattoo minors. That's personally, I know it can be done. I did get tattooed as a minor. I just don't do that personally. I don't tattoo things like your hands unless you have full sleeves. I won't start your sleeve at your wrist and go up, right? It'll go the other way,
right?
Go hidden to visible as your career allows. I won't tattoo anyone's neck unless they have full sleeves and hand tattoos, right? It's like this build up. And then the face tattoos, yeah, you're fully covered and you're dialed in, and that's you, right?
Right.
So it's that way of stepping through that. Now, the other side of the camp, I have peers that will do those tattoos because they feel like, well, they're going to do it anyway. Because trust me, there's people that are going to do it anyway. Like, they're going to go find it.
If you're not going to do it, they'll go to another artist.
And they may go somewhere bad, right? They may go get it done somewhere unprofessionally and unsafe. And so some of my peers are like, I'm still going to do it because I know then they're getting a healthy, safe tattoo. And it's like, I respect that, I personally, just from experience, don't want to tie my name to it. You know, like any sort of business owner, your work has your reputation attached to it, right? And so that's what really deters me from doing it. Now, I also, now as a born-again Christian, I mean, I've never done gang-related stuff. You don't do that because then you get stuck in that group, right?
All the gangs start coming to you.
Yeah, they will. Like, you do it on one of their homies, like, the rest are coming. So, no racist, no hate speech, no, like, I even had a client recently that wanted to do something, and, I mean, just keeping it all shielded, but it was a symbol that I didn't understand. And so I had initially agreed upon it because I thought it was a symbol of peace. But then doing more research, it was more of a, how do I keep this PG? It was like, it had to do with an alternative lifestyle, right? That I'm not in agreement with. And I feel like maybe that's a phase they're going through, right? So for it to be like, hey, ethically, I can't put this on you, even though you say you really want it right now. I don't want you to walk down this path and then later in life, and then you're stuck that way because people will see that. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, and a lot of that comes from the consultation process, right? And I think that's important for anyone that's interested. They maybe hear this message or they're interested in getting tattooed, and they're getting some. Not validation, maybe reassurance from a pastor that, hey, it's all about your heart. They want to do something beautiful. It's Christ-centered. It's tucked away. It's hidden for them. I mean, you want to make sure you're going to a professional, right? That will have this consultation with you, because it's in that process you get to really interview the artist, and then vice versa, right? You get to see if that artist has your interests in mind. If they're just trying to, whatever, let's do it. Or if they will kind of have this in-depth conversation with you, because then that you're walking with somebody who's going to walk with you through this journey. It is. I love going out in the world and bumping into my clients, and re-engaging with that, because it's a relationship we built, and I think that's what we really want, and that that's why it's a part of, I think, my personal ministry. I kind of cut off around the Buddhist era, but when I came back and started looking at tattoos the way that we're talking about it now, I realized how it was affecting people in a positive way, and championing it and caring about people and championing it and going through all the legislative stuff and stepping up and speaking up for the industry. The world was rewarding me for it, right? And to the point where being flown and speaking at conventions, and at one point I got to go speak in India. Yeah.
Wow.
And it was at a again, this is pre Christ, or given my life. It was at an ashram, and it was in conjunction with a famous Indian Maharaj, who, in my understanding, how I kind of make him like the Martin Luther King of India. It wasn't about it wasn't Gandhi freeing India. It was like battling civil rights stuff and the caste system stuff, right? And he had found a bunch of orphanages. He was a good human being, right? He was bringing people together. So they celebrated his death every year, and he was about bringing people together. And in fact, at this event, there were Muslim, there were Sikhs, there were Christians, there were Hindus, there was all sorts there, right? And it was like a celebration of death. There were 750,000 people there.
Wow.
And he was actually a pastor from the East Coast. He organized a group of us to go out and speak at it, because it was community builders in our own unique industries, right? And tattooing, and they call it Mahindi, but henna, right? There's some crossover there. So I got to speak to 750,000 people through translation. It'd be different if it was like they knew exactly what I was saying. Like, I'll get there one day. But no, it was such an experience. But again, that was that the world was showing me how important body art can be in different different realms and spheres. But the walk I was on wasn't focused on Christ. It was focused on the world, right? And again, I just mentioned the worldly aspect of owning a business and not tattooing hands and not tattooing necks. I did that because I didn't want to hurt my reputation, right? I cared about people, but and I've always cared about people, but it was also, how's it going to affect me, you know? And it was that trip to India that really shifted something in me physically.
I'm sure.
Have you heard of the
every friend has gone to India?
Yeah, you get the deli belly, right? And that's no fun. God can use all things, even a bacteria-induced coma. I mean, I was stuck in my bed for days, and I'm pretty active and fit and healthy, and so being sick is rare. And sure, things were, you think, oh, it's just your stomach. No, I mean, this is like affecting me emotionally. There was something. It was a very serious bacteria. In fact, actually, I had to go get tests, and the New Mexico Public Health called me, and they were like, "Sir, where did you get this bacteria?"
Wow.
They were just making sure I didn't eat in New Mexico and got something.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was in India. They're all, oh, phew, okay, good. And so as a testament to how gnarly it was, and I mean, it was something that my wife had said, and it wasn't the first time she said it, but because of this, just this popularity, this growth, the world like, oh, come do these things. I wasn't always there with them. Like I was constantly losing touch with my family. I was losing touch with my spirituality. Like I felt more like, well, what about the likes I'm going to get? What about the comments I'm going to get? Who's going to find me out to that? Oh, I want to be at that prestigious show, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Would you say you were becoming self-absorbed?
Oh goodness, yeah, I know. Okay. I'm just letting it out now. This is my wife. Sometimes she'll call me a goddess, right? Because things had to be a person. I just threw it out there, didn't I? But yes, no, I became very self-absorbed and absorbed in the world. And again, she had told me this many times. My kids growing up, Dad's always busy. A tattoo artist tattooing's a busy gig, right? You're there all day. It's not something you just do real quick. It's a long process. And then traveling, and then coming home, and then digging into regulations or recording social media or doing all this. It's like, I'm doing it for the family, hon. I'm doing it for the family. But she was like, the kids don't even ask where you are anymore. They're not like, oh, where's Dad? And they were just like, he's gone. And she was, she was getting so used to me being gone, and it wasn't even like she was like ultimatum. It just finally struck a chord between the sickness, the illness, the like when you've been really ill, and I imagine this is what we feel like when we're on our bed, right? Our deathbed is like, all I care about is my family. All I care about is my loved ones. That's all I care about. None of the other stuff. And I just wanted to be around my family, and they were like, you're sick, you're gross, we don't want to engage with you right now. And that was where I realized I was on the wrong path. I was doing it for the wrong reasons, right? And it was a genuine call for him. And I say him because even though I had traveled down this Buddhist path, I had studied New Age stuff, right? The law of attraction, all these things. It always felt like it was empty of him. It was just energy and emptiness and void and selflessness. But it's like, but we are built for relationship, to be one with our Creator. And I felt so alone, and I just cried out to him. And even though I had strayed away from Christianity growing up, he was never not there. I mean, my first tattoo was a crown of thorns. I'd still sometimes rock a cross, it was just, I knew it was there. And from there, I mean, he does what he does. He just floods you, and there was this peace And there was this like, yeah, you've been doing it for the wrong reasons, but you're still doing it for a reason, you know? And it was that moment that really gave me clarity that everything, tattooing, learning how to meditate, learning how to quiet my mind, learning how to speak to people, in an industry that's typically pretty introverted, that he can use all things. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you're an example of like, you just went, I'm just going to be a pastor, right? And you just totally 180s your life and went that direction, and now you're a successful pastor. It's like, what do you want me to do, God? Tattoo. Oh. so you want me to
stay the same course?
Yeah. You're here, but now you're doing it for me. And now you're doing it in a way that's going to glorify me. And it's not going to look a lot different because and this is, him telling me, he's like, if you come at somebody like, you need to leave your sinful way and become a follower of Jesus, they're going to be like, that's nice. Peace, But if you're sitting there getting tattooed and I'm helping you through this painful, traumatic process, whatever it is, or even just taking you through this process and sharing with you and engaging with you, and you're like, man, what is it up? What's going on with you? Well, it's because I have Christ in my life, and I'd love to tell you about him. Right? There's this much more of a connection there. I feel like there's true transformation, true discipleship that can happen there. Yeah. And it doesn't look like the traditional way, right? And that's it was horrible Indian bacteria that was kind of the one of the caveats that, or the pieces that kind of shifted me.
Nothing will make you look at your life and where you're at than having food poisoning.
Oh yeah. Oh goodness, yeah. Yeah, it was.
Well, that's awesome that you came on this journey, and I know that you, even after that moment, you started reading a lot, asking. Our friend Colin, a lot of questions, and then our founding pastor, Pastor Allen, met with you for breakfast, and
100%.
And I was really impressed by how many books you read by the time we connected. You were like, I've read C.S. Lewis, I've read all these other apologists and N.T. Wright.
Well, for train of thought, just God, like I say, he uses all things. I used to do that with regulatory BS, like digging through laws and regulations and stuff that people don't want to understand. It's just tough jargon. You got to become like a lawyer to understand it, and it was that same hunger that, because I always, I had an experience with an encounter with Christ, but, there's that's what about the head knowledge, right? And yes, I wanted to know, what was the Bible all about? I've looked through it and looked at the scriptures I didn't like, and and then whatever. But yes, it was when I was finally asking, I don't know if the Bible is historically accurate. I need to know the truth, right? And I started asking a lot of folks, and you're right, Colin connected me with Alan, and it was reading, it was Case for Christ by Lee Strobel. It's a great starter, because then that just teaches you who else to read, right?
Right.
And then you can go down just so many rabbit holes, and I discovered the Bible is one of the most historically validated, but as a species, it's the one thing that we've held for thousands of years that we can trust, right?
Many manuscripts.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, the statistics, that's for another conversation for sure. But yes, but it was, finally sitting down with Alan, and that's when he had lost his son a month prior, but he still was willing to sit down with me, and still like a father to a son, and I know I'm about his age, where it was his son's age, with that pain and that just devastation that any father would know, he still poured into me. And I mean, I can't remember the words we talked about. It was just I could feel the Spirit on him, and that was like, oh, okay, no, this is what this is somebody filled with the Spirit's like, you know?
Yeah.
And then the next day I was like, it's Saturday. I'm like, can I go to your church? He's like, yeah, you know, and he's like, I'm like a lead pastor. We got Paul. He's great. You know, you come to church. And then it was like, so my, you know, I didn't teach my family about Jesus. If anything, I remember telling my kids growing up, I was like, careful with them Jesus people. Careful with that cult. You know, like they'll try and suck you in there, you know, and so they, you know, and they listen to me ramble on about science. And I mean, I'm a big believer in science, but like, you know, energy and new age concepts and Buddhism. They're always like, yeah, Dad. But when I asked them, I was like, hey, I want to go to this church. Do you guys want to go? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, let's go. And there's an amazing worship leader behind the cameras, and at the church. I mean, just like we'd never worshipped like that. And just to see the Holy Spirit like grabbing a hold of people and moving around in crazy ways, you know, it was such a great experience. And then I swear that the sermon you're delivering, you just needed to insert the word Ben, you know, because it was like, and that was the thing, you know, you came before even then, you came down, you shook my hand and gave me a hug and welcomed me, and then spoke directly to me, even though it looked like you were talking to other people. There was just this like, oh my God, like this is what is spoke about in the Bible, right? Mm-hmm. This is church. This is community. And as we were leaving, Wayne, he came up, and at the time he's like, hey, I'm glad you came. We're going to see you next week. And I was like, well, let me ask my family. And we sat down for brunch right afterwards. And before I could even say anything, they're like, do we get to go back? You know, like we're going to go back to that, right? And I was like,
wow.
And so, yeah, it's not like this thing that shifted in me. It's been, my whole family's changed. My dynamics changed. I'm not like everything. It's not like, oh, I'm doing it for my family. Literally, everything is with my family now, you know? And he's truly like brought our family unit to another place. And the things that used to bother us, we pray into. The things that used to separate us, we just cast those aside, you know? And so it's truly become an objective experience in our family. And I just want to share that with every client, but he wants me to do it in a way that brings them in, you know, and doesn't like push them out, because you mentioned judgment on one side, judging people with tattoos. I mean, we can be the same way. People with tattoos judging church people, you know, or people without tattoos.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you don't know.
Yeah.
So
that's so good. So, a couple quick things I was thinking about too is, you know, tattoos historically are a permanent feature in your body, right? Mm-hmm. The only thing you could do if you don't like one is a cover up.
Yeah.
But now with certain technology, there's also tattoo removal. And that kind of brings in another dynamic, because I know there's also a lot of people who, you know, had those tattoos when they were 18-year-olds, and I'm like, this is a bad idea. Mm-hmm. Or it was a bad artist or something like that. And so they're getting removals. So do you still consider it a permanent mark?
I mean, yes, good point. We have laser, right? Lasering is a way for tattoos to be removed. There's other forms now I've seen where you're like tattooing in certain dyes or solutions that break up the molecules. Essentially what a tattoo is a needle has punctured a ink molecule into the dermal layer, and your body's natural response is to attack it, right? Mm-hmm. So your immune system rushes to the area, and your immune system's macrophage gobble up the ink molecule. And since the ink molecule is so big, it holds it in place. Now, as that macrophage dies, another one will come along and gobble it up. And as that one dies, another one will come gobble it up. And it keeps it in place. And in fact, my body is perpetually fighting my tattoos. And the University of Alabama found that this perpetual fighting is like a low-level exercise for your immune system, helping boost your general immunities to infection. Just FYI.
Wow.
Good information. And so how a tattoo removal process works is either through a laser or through some of these less commonly used solutions. They go in, they break up that molecule. So then your macrophage has a better chance of gobbling up and taking it to your lymphatic system, pushing it out through the epidermis, or passing it through your excretory system. Now, lasering it sounds what it is. You're literally shooting a laser through the epidermis and then blowing up that molecule. Now, we're going to get into like the transparency. What I'm trying to do in the industry is ensuring that the products and materials like the inks are safe. And if you're going to an unregulated, unknowledgeable place and they're using maybe less quality tattoo inks, blowing them up in your skin isn't the best thing for you, right?
Oh, right.
Right. Well, if you think about it,
because then your body metabolizes it, goes to your lymph nodes, and now you have the toxin.
Yep. And they're called polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. I know this because we deal with it in the tattoo realm, but but also to make you feel at ease. You also get that every time you eat barbecue. Right.
Oh.
Anytime you're eating barbecued food, you're eating probably, 1,000 times more than that's happening in your body through tattoos. In fact, it would be, probably a week's worth of barbecue eating would be a lifetime of tattoo collecting. So no stress. But yes, you're really blowing up these molecules in your skin with a laser, and then your body metabolizes them depending on those inks. Again, because of the nature of finding out how to regulate them to ensure that their products are safer. Some of those molecules don't dissipate as well. Certain colors don't disappear so quickly, and it's painful. It's a laser zapping it, right? So we don't have a really great way of, the easiest way to remove it. It's possible, but it's best to do your due diligence first, right? Before you go through that process. Because it can be temporary in that sense, but I feel like the removal process is almost worse than getting the tattoo itself.
Is there scarring that happens in the removal process?
Yeah.
Is it?
Well, just like you could have a good tattoo artist do a good tattoo, you could have a bad laser person do a bad laser job.
Yeah.
And I've seen bad laser jobs, and it can go really sideways really quick, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's just it's fast. It's like it's just zapping. I mean, I'm sure you saw when your daughter was getting it done, and yeah, it can leave scars. It essentially, a tattoo is a scar.
Yeah,
I mean, a tattoo is a nice, smooth, pretty scar, right? And a laser will leave a scar. Will it be a nice, smooth, pretty scar, or will it be a big keloid, mess, right? So honestly, what is the best solution for that is to find an artist. Again, if you've made the mistake and you got to do something about it, right? You meet the artist who's willing to work with you and a laser technician. You should want to make sure that the artist knows a trustworthy laser technician and works with that technician to lighten up certain areas to do a more proficient cover up, right? Instead of just removing the whole thing entirely, lightening up certain sections so the artist can put something more optimal over top of it, right? As opposed to having to fully remove it. That's the best case. I get it. Sometimes you just got to get rid of it. But again, finding a good, reputable technician through a tattoo artist is also a good way, because we've seen it.
Who the good guys are and who aren't. So good. That's awesome. Well, Ben, thanks so much for doing this, man. It's really eye-opening, enlightening. I hope our viewers, see it and rethink maybe how they think about tattoos, Christianity, the association there, and start to realize that it's not as big of a deal as maybe we used to think about it 60, 70, 80 years ago.
Yeah.
And that you can actually be a Christian and have a tattoo, be a Christian and get a tattoo, and also be a Christian and not have a tattoo. So, it's all around. But, we want people to be educated. Again, we went through the history. Early Christians had it. We've had it all throughout society. And then obviously there was a point where it became associated with people who were not of great repute. And then, but now it's becoming, a thing again. And people realize it's not as bad as we used to think it was. So thanks for giving us clarity on that. And Ben Shaw, I don't even think we said your name, but it'll be in the notes. Yeah. And we'll put your tattoo shop. Anyone interested in getting a real good ink tattoo, not from Amazon. 100%. You can look up Ben. He's in Albuquerque. He's a great tattoo artist. Thanks so much, Ben.
Of course. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you having me. And just leave this little analogy.
Yeah.
I mentioned when we get tattooed, you have to sit still, go through the pain, trust the tattoo artist to permanently change you. And there's something that my last tattoo is a portrait of Jesus on my back, and it doesn't feel good. It hurts. And there's parts where I have to just go like, okay, Christ went through something that we could never understand, but he had to sit through the pain and fight against this fight or flight response and accept that, and the whole time trust in the Father and what was going on. So I find that there's Christ in all things, and he can even use your tattoo, and he knows exactly what we're going through.
That's right.
You know, and so next time you get tattooed, just recognize that your Savior went through something way more painful.
It's so good. Yeah. For our redemption.
Amen.
Yeah. And his name is tattooed on our hearts.
Amen.
You know, we're written in the Lamb's Book of Life, and I love in Revelation where it says that Jesus is coming back on a horse, and he's got written on his thigh. You know, not on his clothes, on his thigh. And so it's kind of like a little nod to tattoos.
Maybe I could be a tattoo artist in heaven one day.
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe you can ink up all the angels, you know? All right. Well, bless you, man. Love you.
Love you too. Thank you.